Welcome to Evilive, the live media streaming commentary show. I don't know why I added all that extra stuff at the top. That answers the question, why the devil takes the hindmost. Inquiring minds want to know. Subscribe if you're new to the channel, because today I'm going to give you my review of the latest episode in HBO's Game of Thrones, House of the Dragon, Season 1, Episode 8, The Lord of the Tides. Now, this was directed by Geeta Vasant Patel. It was written by Ellen Shim, and it originally aired yesterday, October 9th. And this was all about, as the title implies, the Lord of the Tides, who is going to inherit, ultimately, Driftmark, right? This is about how Lord Corlys is in the Stepstones and he's wounded, and he has already declared that it's going to be Rhaenyra's kids who take over, because they are Valerians, not by blood, but by name, and that's more important to him. His wife, Rhaenys, doesn't really like that idea, but, she supports her husband, and she just wants him to, continue. She just wants him to be happy and have his home pass to who he wants it to pass to. Now, 6 years have passed. And this is a long time. I mean, we just barely got introduced to some of these child actors for some of these characters, and now they're replaced. So for me, this was the most jarring time jump, even more than the 10-year time jump, because I felt like some of the kids grew up way fast and got mean looking. I like the kid with the eye patch. Like he grew up like super quick into like this vicious villain. I mean, I'm surprised he didn't have like a long twirly mustache that he constantly curled. That's what he felt like. And then the Valerian kids, Rhaenyra's kids, with the brown hair, they still looked like they're super young compared to the Targaryen kids from Alicent. So it's a very strange like acting changeover for the child actors. It really like sort of set me back. Not to mention there's been new kids born and kids born to the kids. So I'm sort of feeling like I have to watch it again to really wrap my head around whose kids are whose and why they all look so dramatically different. Like Aegon, Alicent and Viserys' son, he had like that long stringy blonde hair. Now he has this weird bob haircut. It doesn't even look like the same character because of course it's a different actor. But why wouldn't you make them look similar so that we, the viewers, can make that emotional and mental connection with them? It felt really off and really weird. And it's going to hinder my ultimate score of this episode. But I did really enjoy the episode. This is all about the politics of Driftmark, who is going to inherit it, whether it's going to be Valerion's brother, Vaemond, who is straight up coming up and saying, look, I don't give a damn who my brother said he wants to inherit this. This is my family we're talking about. This is my family's home we're talking about. And I'll be damned if I let any Targaryen tell me who is going to inherit my home, who is going to be in charge of my ancestral seat. Except that that's exactly what is going to end up happening. So that kind of sucks for you, dude. But that's just the truth. So why it's such a big deal, why they even really, really care when it comes down to it. For Vaemond Valerion, he cares because it's his family seat. Just as the Targaryens came over and went to Dragonstone, the Valerians came over and went to Driftmark. So this is like literally like everything about their house. When Corlys was injured in the Stepstones, then the heir, sort of came up into question. Even though it was already settled once by the king and once by Lord Corlys, if you're dead and dying, other people are going to vie for control of your seat. And so it's his brother, who had no hope of ever inheriting it otherwise, finally sees his moment and he's going to try to get in and get in control. And in order to have some sort of semblance of backing for it, he's going to go to the High Towers. And he's going to say, look, I want this seat, even though your, soon to be dead king and husband is going to, say that he wants to give it to Rhaenyra's kids. If you give it to me, if you back my play, then you're going to have the entire fleet at your disposal. If you don't, Rhaenyra is going to have the entire fleet. And that's going to make your attempt at usurping her that much more difficult. And the Hightowers aren't stupid. They understand this very basic premise. And so they go through this whole mock, hearing in order to give him the backing he needs. Now, of course, Rhaenyra and Daemon are really upset about this for obvious reasons. They need control of those ships if they're going to be able to stand up against the Hightowers. And the Hightowers have already subjugated the goddamn kingdom. Like, they have the king, who is near death, on drugs. Like, they just keep him completely drugged out of his mind so he can't be influencing any of the actual events of the kingdom. And so the Hand of the King, Otto Hightower, has taken control of the king. Queen Alicent has taken control of the king. So now it's the Hightowers that are running the kingdom, keeping the king drugged, which is totally messed up. So when Rhaenyra and Daemon fly back home and approach the king, realizing what they did to him and how they're keeping him, they know that they have to make a statement. No matter what it is, they cannot let the Hightowers step in, and so they have to play this stupid game about having this hearing with Vaemond defend or making his claim on Driftmark. So, ultimately, what happens, of course, is Rhaenyra has this wonderful relationship with her father, and she's like, look, Dad, they are trying to take what is ours, and you are letting them by your absence. You need to get control of yourself, and you need to help me. If you really believed that tale of the Song of Ice and Fire that you told me about Aegon the Conqueror, you need to defend it now. This is the time. And again, he's in and out of it. He's dying. He doesn't fully comprehend everything, but he gets that. As soon as she brings up Song of Ice and Fire and Aegon the Conqueror, he understands this is my daughter Rhaenyra, and she is about to lose Driftmark, which is then going to put her in a horrible position to defend the actual crown, which he gave to her upon his death. So he actually steps up in the middle of the hearing, and everyone's mind is blown that he's walking toward, he's forsaking everyone's help. But finally, he's so weak, and he's just, so withered away as a human, being eaten up by the Iron Throne, that his brother comes to help him. And he almost, shakes him off, but he realizes it's his brother and he's doing it out of love. So he lets him help him up on his seat. And seeing him up on the throne in that state, I mean, it got me. It really got to me. It was a beautiful moment where it was like the last gasp of the Targaryens saying, we will not go down without a fight. And he is garnering every ounce of strength that he has left, saying, this has already been resolved. Why is this being contested again? And Vaemond is standing up there like the douchebag he is, saying, well, I'm not going to, these are not legitimate heirs, and my brother is dying in the stepstones. He's not dead, by the way. Imagine what he's going to say when he comes back and he realizes that his own family tried to usurp his wishes on his keep. Oh, shit. That is good. And the Hightowers were behind it. That is going to make a huge division between the Valyrians and the Hightowers. If they ever were hoping for his help before, they ain't getting it now. So the king's like, this has already been settled. And so Vaemond realizes he can't change the king's opinion, but he can make a point to the entire court. So he calls Rhaenyra straight up a whore and her kids bastards. And immediately Daemon walks up with his sword and cuts his head in half like a melon. Just, you will not. The king's like, I will have your tongue. And Daemon just cuts his head open. He's like, let him keep his tongue. And you just see this tongue hanging out of half of his head. It was beautiful, a beautiful moment. And yes, her kids are bastards. And yes, she was a whore. She acted like a whore. But the truth is it's her crown. Whether you like it or not, the king gave her the crown. You don't get a choice, dude. And your brother, who owns Driftmark and is the head of the Valerian family, has already deemed her sons to be the heirs. So you can bitch and moan all you want. It's not going to change a goddamn thing. And the Hightowers overstepped their bounds here, and everyone saw it in the full light of day. Now, one thing that I think is really interesting about the Hightowers is Alicent is really coming into a place where she seems to be really regretting all of the bad things that she did before, cutting Rhaenyra's arm when she tried to take out her son's eye in order, as a sort of a lex talionis for her own son losing an eye to him. She's really buried herself in the Seven, in the religion of the Andals when they came over. And ultimately, she's like sort of like changed the entire Red Keep into almost like a monastery, like almost like a religious center, which is really, really strange looking. But, I think it is a way for her to try to exercise a little penitence, for what she did. She's trying to, because ultimately before she sort of lost her mind in that moment, she was always telling, her hand, not her hand, but the protective knight that was with her. I don't know why I can never remember his name. Kristen Cole. She was telling him, look, we are right. So we need to do the right thing through honor and respect, not through subjugation and, deceitfulness and lies and murder. And then that wily douchebag ended up killing his own father and brother for her without her explicitly asking him to. And so she feels guilty about that. And he kind of has her on the hook for that. And so she's doing everything she can to try to get back to being the person that she was before, the good queen and the good wife and the good mother. And for the most part, I think she's doing a really good job up until the very end here. But ultimately, the king is saying, look, we need to have a dinner. We need to have a feast. We need to bury the hatchet. This is ridiculous. He tried to do this at the wedding or at the funeral last episode and didn't quite work out. So he's going to try it again. And he knows he's dying. He knows he's at the end of his rope. So he's just got to try with all of his might. And just seeing him and his desire just to have his family get along and love each other, it hurts. It hurts because he's a good man and he's a good king. And he just made bad choices and he's just not the right person to be king. And so the throne itself is eating him alive. And it's just, it's depressing as hell is what it is. It's so sad. But anyway, he makes this wonderful speech when it's the Hightowers, Valerians and Targaryens all having dinner with all of their kids. And he's like, look, this is a family. We need to get past all of our petty squabbles because we can work together for a greater future. We need to work together. And ultimately, Rhaenyra steps up and she says straight up, I want to give a toast to Alicent. And she does her best to bury the hatchet. And then Alicent gives a toast to Rhaenyra, burying the hatchet. And I feel like if it was just between them two, if they could just spend more time together without their kids, without their brothers, without their families, just them, they could have mended all of the wounds because they really do love each other. They're lifelong friends from childhood. And they finally get past all the animosity in this moment. And it seems nice, except they already fomented the seed of hatred in their own children. And so now their kids are acting out. So, a pig is brought out and put in front of Alicent's son. And it's a joke because at the very beginning of this entire season, they gave him a pig saying, here's your dragon, because he didn't have a dragon. And so Rhaenyra's son starts giggling about it. And Rhaenys son, Alicent's son gets all pissed off and makes a toast, making fun of them about being weak, even though he says they're strong, but it's like a jibe at them. And so they start fighting and stuff. And ultimately, Prince Daemon comes and just stands right in front of this kid. He's like, if you want to, without saying anything, just with his look, if you want to get to my sons, you're going to have to go through me. And I have no problem cutting you down. And the kid, to his credit, stood his ground and didn't back down, but then just walked off ultimately. And it was this wonderful moment of just like, these are not my kids, but I will protect them because they are my sons. You know, I am their parent, even though I did not have anything to do with their birth. And you will not mess with my family. I am the father here now, and you are going to recognize that or suffer the consequences. So I cannot wait to see a moment where Daemon steps up to this little bratty, villainous kid with Vhagar at his back. Because that's going to be a fight. Like, it's not going to be pleasant. And shit is coming. You know, this entire show is setting up that civil war. And this is it. This is the end of it. As soon as we see the very end of this episode, it sets up, well, this is how the division fully is realized. We saw the division starting and sides being taken already and machinations happening, but now it's on 100%. So ultimately, the king ends up going to bed and has his last gasp of breath, telling Alicent, thinking he's talking to Rhaenyra about Aegon the Conqueror and the Song of Ice and Fire, how it's important to keep Aegon in charge, and you know he came over here to be the king, and he needs to be the king. He thinks he's talking to his daughter, but he's talking to Alicent, and she thinks he's talking about their son. And so she's like, I understand what you're saying, and I will make it happen. So she thinks it's his deathbed confession that her son should be the king. And that's how we're going to get this real Civil War division, where Rhaenyra is saying, no, 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 he named me the heir. And Alicent's saying, on his deathbed, he named my son heir. And that's how there's fully going to be the fully realized Civil War. And holy shit, is it going to be coming down. I think next episode, we're going to see a lot of blood. Not just Vaemon's blood. that was a great shot. I'm a horror fan. And to see that head chopped in half was just dope. It was so cool. And to see the king without his mask on, you could like see into his ocular cavity. You could see the muscles and the tendons in his jaw. Oh, god damn, it was great looking. They did such a great job with the graphics on this. And this is a really tight, compounded episode. It has infinite implications for what is to come, but as far as a singular episode, it was very, very tight and focused. And I don't know, it didn't really land with me as much as the previous episodes, even though I really did enjoy the hell out of it. It was a great episode. But again, it's just what it's leading to, what I'm excited to see, what is coming. The atrocities that are going to be committed by both sides, the deaths of the first born sons and daughters, and the second, the sons of the sons are going to then ultimately be the ones put in a position of being king and stuff. And so there's one part of this that I haven't talked about yet that it was brought up because it's really important, because ultimately Queen Alicent wants her son Aegon to be the next king. All of the Hightowers do. The king, Viserys, doesn't. He wants Rhaenyra to be king. But there's an actually really good reason why Aegon shouldn't be king. Because he's a fucking piece of shit. He's a dirtbag fucking rapist. There's an entire sequence about how he raped this handmaiden. And it's just a thing he does that it's revealed. And Queen Alicent goes up, pays the girl off, makes her drink some birth control drink to kill any potential fetus that might grow, and covers it up. And even her daughter, her son's wife, who they have kids for, is like straight up saying, there's a beast beneath the floorboards. Aegon's pretty good unless he's drunk and he comes in, and then it gets bad when he rapes me. I sort of played with that wording, but that's the intention I got from the comment. And what I think she meant, because she dips into magic. She's been making these prophecies the entire show so far, and she's steeped in magical lore. And so I think when she said the beast beneath the floorboards, I think she was talking about the true nature of Aegon, her husband and brother, and how he may look like this good little prince, but you see him overindulging in alcohol all the time, and we know he's a fucking dirty, disgusting fucking rapist. He's the beast, and if you allow him to be king, you will suffer because of it. And I think that's straight up what she was saying very, very clearly. even though it was in coded language and very brief, thrown out line. Um, this guy is just a fucking piece of shit. And I can't believe that a woman who claims, like Alicent claims to be this virtuous individual, allows her son to engage in this despicable behavior and then to further compound it, cover it up on his behalf. You know, she raged against him, saying, "Why are you doing that? You have to stop." But she's complicit because she keeps covering it up, allowing it to happen, letting him not suffer the consequences of his actions. It's how she could think he would be a good king is beyond me. It just makes no sense at all. Anyone in that situation. It's disgusting. So she has no moral high ground at all. And don't let anyone try to claim otherwise. She is just as much of a garbage person as her son is because she allows it to occur over and over again. And it's just gross. You just don't, that's just something you just don't do. It's filth. All right, so my ultimate rating, it's 4 evil eyes out of 5 evil eyes. Ultimately, it's House of the Dragon. How do you not love this show? It's the best show on any streaming device out there right now. It is just the 100% top-notch production, story, acting, writing, everything. This one fell a little bit short for me, but other than that, like, I can't really complain. Like, it's a genuinely magnificent series, and I am loving it. If you guys are watching it, let me know what you think in the comments. Is Aegon, has he gone too far with his actions? Is it okay for Alicent to cover up his atrocities? And if you were Alicent, what would you do with your son who is a serial rapist? Let me know in the comments below. I hope you guys have a fantastic week. And as always, remember, evil spelled backwards is live. So get your fucking asses out there and be evil.